Yeah. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the first in-person meeting besides SABR Day. The first in-person meeting of 2024. That's right. Remember last month we were all hybrid because we thought we were going to get frozen in. Right. Yeah. But welcome back, everyone. All right, so I'm Joe Thompson, just in case y'all don't know who I am. Mike's not here to correct me. Mike's from Dallas, so please tell him that I introduced myself. All right, so believe it or not, everyone, we have quite a few guests and new members. I guess that SABR Day and Astros FanFest thing kind of worked because I count that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new members from last month. And at least one of them is here. Yeah. Hey. Representative. Max Bush from Richardson. Jonathan Goodwin from Katy, right there. And I'm going to throw this name. I'm just going to say Xing Kui Wang from Houston. And I apologize for destroying your name. Christian Kruger from Fulshire. Connor Kirkon from Houston. Jacob Lapp from Houston. Diego Martinez from Houston. Pat Sparks from Katy. And Tyler Suarez from Magnolia. So whatever y'all are doing out there, keep it going. All right, we are growing and growing. Today we have 4 guests in attendance. Hopefully you will sign up or run for the hills at the end of the meeting. 2 guests are here courtesy of Phil Boudreaux, our speaker tonight. We have Tim Bird from Huntsville. Told me he's out on bond. Jim, that's funny. He said that, I didn't. All right, and Tony Wallace from the Woodlands. Okay. We have a very special guest with Patrick. Jill Guilford. You don't know Jill, we met her at FanFest, and she's here by way of Indiana, close to Purdue, but she stayed with Patrick now, so I guess they like each other. Great job, Patrick. Good job. I got a mess. And we have a guest, Marsha, Greg Bergeron. Greg, where are you from? Houston? Okay. All right. Excited for that. Well, what part of Houston?
What's it, Klein Forest High School, so you're up at Greenwood Forest.
Okay. All right. Fine. All right. Good. Good. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome those of you online. Vince, nice to see you again, Vince. All right. Sam, nice to see you again. Or Samuel, right? I can't remember. Yeah. Okay. Good. Right. Corrected me last. That much. All right. A little disappointing news. And I know all of us are upset. With 284 votes from the Baseball Writers Association of America, Wagner finished his 9th year on the ballot with 73.8% of the tally. Is he going to get in next year?
That's not bad. I hate that.
This is it next year, right? Number 10. I don't know what the deal is. Brownie, do you know?
I have one piece of information, and only that. I'm sure most of you already know this, but according to what I heard, 3 people who did not vote for Billy Wagner this year voted for him last year, and they had open spots on their ballots when they turned him in this year. How do you justify that?
I don't get it either. I don't know what's going on. So, well, Billy, if you can hear us, we hope you get in next year. We'll be rooting for you. All right, last month we had Jay Barrel. It was a busy month last month. We had Jay Barrel, the Vice President of Astros Business Strategy with us for the meeting. for the all Zoom meeting. He gave us a lot of good information. And he gave us those of you who were online last month for the meeting. You were privileged. Okay, as Lou was telling me, be quiet. Okay, you were privileged. All right. Jay made sure to tell me. All right. So if you missed it last month, sorry. All right. We also had Carlos Robinson to talk about the book, The Right Side of History. To keep that book title in mind. You may see that book again tonight. Okay. It was a great story about her dad, the life and career of Johnny Wright, co-pioneer in breaking baseball's color barrier, as told by his daughter. All right. There you go. That book right there. Okay. All right. FanFest January 20th. We had a lot of interest. We gave out a lot of baseball cards. Thank you all for volunteering and coming out and supporting the chapter. Carter Pena, young kid, won the Larry Dierker signed baseball. So wherever you are, Carter, congratulations. He said one day he's going to come to a meeting, so I told him I'm going to hold him to that. So it's a young kid. All right. We sold quite a few books. In between the Houston baseball book and my Mexican American baseball book, and that does very well for the chapter. Okay, we sold quite a few. SABR Day. Quite a few of you who are in here went to SABR Day, February 10th. Brian McTaggart talked to us for about 30-40 minutes, and then he took questions for about 30 or 40 minutes. If you haven't seen the video, it's on the YouTube channel. He has a lot of great information, a lot of good stuff. Plus, we shared some stories of memorabilia. And again, the video is on the YouTube channel. So he told us a lot of great stuff about spring training. He's down there right now and the club. The thing I remember the most is that Jake Myers is starting in center field. Okay, I think Joe Espada kind of confirmed that today. All right, Jake Myers is starting in center field, and as Brian said, they're going to see if he can actually do it this year. Okay, and then Chaz is going to platoon with Jake Myers and Jordan in center and left. I think that's how they're going to work that. So I'll be cheering for Chaz because I got the jersey. I love Chaz. So, very quickly, in case you don't know, early registration for SABR 52 is now available. Okay, I'm registered already. Maxwell, who's not with us, he's also registered. It's going to be in Minneapolis, August 7th through the 11th at the Hyatt Regency. People like Rod Carew, Tony Oliva, Bert Blyleven, Jim Catt are all scheduled to be there. All right, so if you want to hear them talk, hey, sign up for it. It's a little bit different this year as far as the pricing. Bob, I don't know if you signed up for it already, did you? Yeah, it's a little bit different here, but SABR members is $265 for the early rate for June 7th, $295 after the regular rate. Non-members $335. SABR 52 attendees have the option of purchasing tickets for the following optional events. In years past, you buy the all-inclusive, and that included a game ticket. Not this year. Okay, it's a little different. There's some optional events, which I purchased a ticket for the St. Paul Saints game. You can go on Thursday, August the 8th. They're playing the Columbus Clippers. The game ticket includes round-trip bus transportation from the Hyatt Regency. If you don't want to do that same day, they're offering a Target Field ballpark tour. Okay, if you don't want to go to the minor league game. The ticket to the St. Paul Saints game is $30. The Target Field ballpark tour is $20. Friday, August the 9th, you could buy a ticket for the Twins versus the Guardians. Sabres reserved a block of tickets in the diamond box and the field box level in the left field corner, $42. So you have to buy those optionally. Okay, that's optional buying. I'm sure they're going to add extra stuff. And SABR has a special group rate at the Hyatt for $219 a night. Okay, it's usually pretty reasonable. Go ahead, Herb.
I saw that price, so I started looking for other hotels nearby. There's a double tree that is offered about 155 with so block or two.
Yeah,
If you want something cheaper, they
yeah, if you want some, yeah, that's right.
yeah.
You didn't check out the Hilton, did you?
Well, that's all.
Well, I mean, isn't there another Hilton real close to it?
Never seen that, but they might be.
Okay, okay. So after you register for SABR 52, you'll receive an email confirmation. Okay, there's other upcoming conventions. I was hoping Matthew would be here, so he'd like to talk about the couple other conventions. Gloria, you going to a convention besides the national convention this year?
You know, I wanted to go to the Jerry Malloy convention in June, but it's in Cooperstown. And when Lucia and I went for Stagwell, God, we wound up staying for 30. Quite a ways away from Cooperstown, so I don't know.
You don't know, okay.
I hope so.
All right, yeah. But you went for the Hall of Fame thing. It's a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah, you might be able to get a good room. Okay.
I haven't opened registration yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I think they said people should make their own reservations.
Okay. Okay. I have an announcement for next month. In case you don't know, for the last 8-10 months, which explain why I don't have even more hairs that I haven't had in the past. I'm leading a faculty-led learning abroad program to Athens, Greece. Okay, and I'm going to be gone through spring break. I'm leaving the 7th, and I'm coming back the 17th. When I come back, I have to spend the night in Amsterdam for me, right? For me. So when I come back the 17th, you know, I might not be fully into it. But our meeting is the next day. Okay, our meeting is March the 18th, and Bob Boudreaux has agreed to run the meeting for next month. Huh?
I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, Bob knows. Yeah. I'm sure Bob knows how to run a meeting. Matthew Regiment, I always destroy his name. Matthew will talk about the Houston race riot of 1917 and Negro League baseball player Roy Tyler. Okay. Plus, Mike McCroskey and I are trying to schedule a very special guest. And if we to speak with us, and you do not want to miss this special guest. That's all I'm going to say. All right. I've been told to hush hush. I'm not going to let a few people in this room know who it is, but it's a very special guest. You don't want to miss it. Okay. Next month, March the 18th.
March 8th.
Right. Whatever that Monday is, March 18th. Okay. Also, everything right?
Yeah.
We said, so you found one now, the kissing man.
Exactly. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna kneel like Nolan Ryan did. And this one. Sure. Didn't think I remembered that, did you? Monday, April the 22nd. Now, once the baseball season starts, April and May, there's a problem with the third Monday of each of both of those months. Okay, so Monday, April the 22nd, the fourth Monday, Mike Vance, our old buddy, is going to be talking to us. All right, we can't have a meeting April the 15th because it's Astros home game against the Braves, and it's Jackie Robinson Day. Okay, so Monday, April 22nd, Mike Vance is going to be here to talk about his new book and to sign some copies. All right, I hear it's he's going the fiction route. I think. In May, Astros are playing the Angels Monday, May the 20th. So Thursday, May the 23rd, our old buddy David Jerome is making a special trip to Houston. He will be here and he will talk to us about his Bill Verdon book. Okay, and he will sign copies. And it's Thursday, May the 23rd. And those of you who love steak, I talked to the owner of the restaurant. That is steak night. It's a big crowd. Thursday, May the 23rd. You get a steak and a potato for $20.
Party hard, those people.
The owner told me that's steak night, so get here early. All right, for the parking lot, just get here early, okay? Yeah,
Eating time.
yeah, Thursday, May 23rd. Also, I talked last time we met together. I asked how many of y'all would like to go to Corpus Christi for a game. So can I get some hands? Do y'all still want to go to Corpus Christi for a game? Okay, well, I got an email today from the Hooks. Okay, August 30th. The Hooks are playing the Tulsa Drillers. You know any? Y'all know who the Drillers are associated with?
Dodgers.
The Dodgers. Okay. He has told me, and I quote, since you do have an interest in our suite seats, we have packages that come with 12, 25, or 37 plus people, which for August 30th, it would be priced at $68, including dinner.
Wow, wow.
So that's August 30th, the Saturday. I think it's the evening. It's Labor Day weekend. August the 30th. So those of you who want to go, talk to Mike, Bob, and I. We're going to set this up, and we can go to as a chapter. I'm going to talk to Gilbert in Round Rock, the Bill Gilbert chapter. We have a big contingent of Astros fans, maybe going down to see the Hooks versus the Drillers, August 30th, Corpus Christi. I know we usually go to Sugarland, but this year we ought to do something special. Go to Corpus, all right? And you just go for the game and do whatever you want the rest of the weekend. Okay? We're going to try to set somebody up from the Hooks to come talk to us. Okay, as well. So, all right. The Astros win contest, that's coming up around again. It will be happening next month. I'm going to send the details out in early March. And speaking of the win contest, our winner from last year is Bill Browning is here. And I have tried for I don't know how long to give you this gift for winning the contest from last year.
Thank you.
So Browning, here's our winner from last year. And it kind of goes with what you've done the last 2 years or so. So if you don't mind, you can put it right. I thought it would be special considering what you've done. Try to pull it out. I got this at the Field of Dreams in Iowa. And Bill has written some books the last couple of years, and I think it goes well. If you build it, it will come. Yeah. Okay. No problem. No problems. So, Bill's in the mail.
Joe, is this the games you guessed how many wins the Astros would have?
Right. So if start thinking about how many wins do you think the Astros are going to have this year? When the details are released, we'll have a tiebreaker. Last year it was home runs by Jordan and stolen bases by Tucker. This year it might be something different. But when I release it, make sure you send the email to Herb. I'll send out the information. Just send it to him before opening day, which is what, March 30th? Yep.
Tiebreaker could be Verlander's days on the IL.
Tiebreaker can be Verlander's days on the IL.
March 28th.
March 28th? So, just sort of keep that in mind. Start thinking about how many wins you think the Astros are going to have this year. Next chapter newsletter, Tony and Scott. We're talking about opening day, right?
Opening day, end of April. End of April.
End of April. End of April now. Okay. So, you have some articles. Please share your thoughts. Tony, you have some ideas of what some articles can be?
Well, I certainly.
Preview of the season.
Preview of the season. And I can't remember if he memory of Larry Dierker. Or not. So we might make space to do that, go get an appointment higher. Also, I was thinking about is 100 we had some film footage here, the 1924 World Series. 3 years ago, got film footage for that, and John. And quite something about the 1924 series. That's the first season. Statistical made it be, that as the year that Parker's going to be getting 422, which is the highest average in the modern history, 424. In 24, and team 56. Team 56. And it happens a lot. So, also happened the year that Gershwin's rapid improvement.
Okay. Cool, all right.
It's Coolidge was president.
We'll go to the president. You got some ideas, right? Please, anyone.
That's all I got.
I asked you, I said, was it a good game? You were there?
Hey, Richard, Rolling Stone concert there.
Let's ever get top one. That I. Same after the meeting. Let's show you. Let's show you it wasn't bad. That bad. It's okay. Bad day.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Without further ado, let's bring on our special guest, Phil Boudreaux. He's a staple of Astros baseball for 40 years.
Wow.
And in 2023, he was voted in as an inductee into the Houston Baseball Media Wall of Honor. The Astros will recognize Boudreaux at Minute Maid Park in a pregame ceremony on April the 16th, 2024, day after Jackie Robinson Day. Nearly every Astros home game in 40 seasons, Boudreaux has assisted Astros broadcasters like Bill Brown. Okay? He's worked over 3,000 Astros games, various television broadcasters over the years, also collaborated with Brownie and Acosta on the 2021 book, Houston Astros Golden Era, which traced the team's history. In addition to joining the telecast in 1982, Boudreaux also served as sports producer and reporter for KTRH Radio from 82 to 89, producing the award-winning Sports Beat show with Jerry Trupiano and John Green. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Boudreaux.
Be with everybody tonight.
Push it down button.
Oh, gotcha. All right. First of all, Brownie and I worked over 2,000 games together. It's amazing when you're working with someone and you're on the same wavelength with each other. And you're one of the rare people who you would have a thought, you'd be going someplace, and I could help finish your sentence. And we sat next to each other, and it's amazing when you see the ball game a different way, and just have that feel for it. But nobody people to work with. So thank you. The whole thing I'm going to talk about tonight kind of gets into the business of baseball, which is what we're it's the background of all this. But broadcasting kind of started, obviously over 100 years ago, like we was talking about. The first games on the radio were in 1921. KDKA, the Pittsburgh Pirates, televised or broadcasted. Television came into play, obviously, shortly more after World War II. But it's always been about some of the finances, big markets and small markets. I found this quote, and I want to see what you guys think about this. It was a talk about how it was going to destroy baseball, the moving of a team from a medium-sized market to a big market was really going to screw up everything. You know when that was first said? 1953. Lou Perini, I believe is how he pronounced his name, moved the Boston Braves, only to 200,000 people, and were outdrawn by the Red Sox by 600,000 fans that year, and moved into the big market of Milwaukee. Not exactly what we think of as the piece of that goes with it. So just because there's a change in business doesn't necessarily mean that. The economics of baseball have changed. When baseball in the pre-expansion era, 5 of the markets, I believe, were shared markets. Chicago, St. Louis, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. And Philadelphia, so Philadelphia. So you had all these markets which were shared. The only place that really worked and stayed the same way was in Chicago. Everybody else had some movement and some franchise movements at some point in time. So all of that kind of felt into the background of what happens in broadcasting, because you have the whole market to yourself or just part of the market to yourself. In most of the stations that ended up around the country, baseball was fortunate to be on 50,000 watt stations and large part. Initially, when the Astros won the air, they were on KTR or KPRC radio 950. My background in radio is I always wanted to work at KPRC because that was the Astros station. When I was growing up, that was something I really wanted to do. That never happened. I ended up getting a chance to go to work at KTRH radio right out of college. And from there, we kind of saw 2 years into it, they were able to get the Astros broadcasting rights. And they held those for years. And now everybody's on basically only sports stations. When I first started in radio, there were 2 sports talk shows in youth. They were on 3 hours a night. Right now, there are 4 all sports radio stations, and some of them actually talk about sports sometimes, but not too much. So there are more generations of what happens. So I kind of preface this talk by saying this is the regional sports business 3.0, because it's been kind of generations that happen with this. That motto on the bottom of there, 14 sports, that is about the that initially was the broadcasting network that was in Washington, D.C. It ended up being, after it morphed into a couple other things, HTS became the sales arm of most of the regional sports networks. And what they were able to do against the broadcast networks is, if you were a Budweiser, you didn't go to each individual team and cut your deal. You went to HTS and you got everybody, and everybody spent money out of it. So that actually helped energize the regional sports business. So that's some thought about how we got here. So let's kind of go through a little more of that. First down. Yeah, sure it goes. Before cable existed, we had games on TV. You used to get 1 game a week. Tony Kubek and Kirk Gowdy out there got us. And the guy who I loved in all this was the guy, statistician Mark Vaughn. That's who I wanted to be when I was Mark Vaughn. And that kind of happened that way, so I'm pretty happy with that. But you had a game of the week. But the Astros in the late 60s started televising a single game. Initially, it was on channel 13 here in Houston. But one of the real problems on doing the road games for this was you had to go relay station to relay station to get a broadcast signal from one place to another. Any of you guys we live up north and up towards the Woodlands. So there's a big tower over there where the blimp base used to be. That's a microwave tower. What they used to do is transmit the live game back from tower to tower to tower, and you had to have all this above stuff. So, and if one tower had a problem, you didn't get a signal. Remember that cartoon thing where the guy pulled out a plug? That literally was happening, and you had to call each station until you found that we're going backwards where it went out at. So, so one game a week was a lot. In the mid 1960s, the first broadcast satellites were launched. They called West Star. I ended up spending a lot of my life in the logistics part of broadcasting, and so we put a lot of things up on satellites. Now there are plenty of satellites. Back then there were not. They were very hard to get to. So what a company called Western Union, that we still have heard of, was the person who took it off of satellite and then would send it down these microwave paths to the individual stations who get it. And the Astros were huge because the Astros, before the Rangers got here, held the entire Texas market, held Louisiana, and a couple of stations up in Arkansas. Everybody who didn't get St. Louis in this area was getting the Astros. So the Astros actually worked pretty hard to make sure and keep baseball out of Arlington for as long as they could. It ended up looking that way, but that was really what they were trying to do. So you had the major league game of the week on Saturday afternoon. And I remember growing up, I saw a lot of Baltimore Orioles, a lot of Frank Robinson and Bowie Powell and Brooks Robinson, a lot of Minnesota Twins. The National League was rather a mess at that point in time. There were a lot of decent teams, but there really wasn't a outstanding team at the level that those teams were at. And all of a sudden, Miracle Mets came on, and we had this. But the only thing that the broadcasters had on a national basis was this one game a week, and the World Series. And the World Series was a high profile item. It was only played in the afternoon, but you couldn't get ratings. So that's a problem. So Home Sports Entertainment was the local entry into this. That was the company I went to work for. Initially, Channel 20 televised, took the games away from Channel 13. It was a UHF station, and I believe they also spent a little bit of time on 26, if my memory serves me correctly, before they became a metro media station. So they started televising the games on the road, and they kept picking up more games on the road because there wasn't any real loss for the local people to having it on TV. So the regular radio announcers would usually go over to do the games, and it actually brought in usually an extra person who would kind of get put into the mix at the team level. I believe that's actually how kind of Dirk went from the ticket office to go work for the Astros, was because they were looking for somebody else to kind of be involved with that. I don't know the story of that, but I think the timing syncs up pretty well after he left St. Louis. So cable TV really began working in the late 1970s. And the appeal of cable TV was very much into major metropolitan areas, which are major league baseball markets, right? The reason being is if you live in Manhattan, you have cable as opposed to having television, because your signal on television would have ghosts on it, because you would get reflection of the signal off of other adjacent buildings to you. And therefore, you look like you're seeing 2 or 3 different images, just a little bit in the background there, but didn't make for a good signal. Cable gave you a much cleaner signal. Cost money, it wasn't free, but many people thought that. And we thought we had 30 channels of cable TV. We were walking in high bulk at that point. So the Astros kept picking up more games, and Channel 20 picked up those games, and we had then HSE came to the Astros and Dr. McCullough and asked to televise the games at home. And there was a great deal of controversy across all the teams about having games on TV and the home games, because they're afraid they're going to hurt the gate. And the majority of the money that came from TV was from the gate. That has slowly changed. And as we see now, when we were doing a studio things during the COVID year, they started games on the West Coast. When the Astros played Oakland, here, we started the game at 8 o'clock at night, not 7 o'clock at night, because it was purely a studio sport at that point in time for that season. So a little bit of the pushback of the direction about where we were going and how we were going to get there. And the other thing that was kind of funny, and this kind of speaks to Dirk as well, most teams had multiple play-by-play announcers, 2 or 3 play-by-play announcers, and no color announcers. At that point in time, there were very few people who actually did that. You had some, there's some of them, but here in this market, Dierker was the first player to ever be on the air. I'm out. As a matter of fact, when we started doing Astros games on HSE, Joe Sanfito had thrown out his elbow here, was on the disabled list, and actually televised or broadcast stairs with Jim Durham, who was the Bulls announcer for many, many years. He's a Houston guy, was a Houston guy as well, he passed away. But it's kind of changed the way the broadcasts were done. And so there are more ways to do this. So that's kind of how it started. So how much was it going to hurt attendance? That was the burning question that everybody wanted to know. And HSE became the provider for sports in Houston and Dallas. And what HSE was able to do was something rather unique. They were able to share the market, because you knew you were only going to be able to televise home games here, home games in Arlington, when there was no conflict, they let the game go in the other market. Most teams have very close territories and wouldn't allow this to happen. As a matter of fact, most of the original broadcast territories and the regional sports networks were set up over college conferences and what their territories were. Arkansas wanted to be in the St. Louis market, but because the Southwest Conference, when it was growing up, encompassed the Southwest Conference encompassed Arkansas, they were in HSE territory. So when the St. Louis network began, they actually kept it on, it stayed here, and they wanted to move networks. As our technology got significantly better, we were able to switch people over and move the St. Louis market, or people who want to be in the northern part of that, which were the St. Louis. Other parts would go to Dallas for the Rangers, and the rest of most of the southern part of the state and Louisiana would come to here for the Astros games. Mostly look at the area where you're talking about. There was also something called open territory. Florida, until the Marlins got there, was considered open territory. Nobody had so any game could go into there. But if you remember, they used to have these big dishes you could have at your house. And you could dial into that thing. Massive things, massive piece of technology, and they're now all bird dance, I think, more or less. But you have that put a zip code in to where that thing was located at. Based on your zip code, depending on which team you could see. And we had a whole department back at our facility which monitored nothing but the cable systems and the zip codes that they influenced or they were subject to. So let's see. And let's see. Things change. Does anybody know who this is? Other than Brownie? That is Jeff Hamilton. Dodgers third baseman. Anybody that's significant to Jeff Hamilton? He was the losing pitcher in the 22-inning Astros Dodger game in 1988, I think. 89. And that was the encompassing time where the regional sports network grew up. We lost most of the people watching the game because the network was on a timer. HSE was on a shared transponder or shared channel space with the Business News Network. And there's no way anybody thought that you'd be airing anything after midnight, let alone 2 o'clock in the morning, except we were doing that together that night. And Jeff Hamilton, the losing pitcher in the game, but that became the push to give them their own channel and their own entirety of a 24-hour network. Before that, they were essentially off at 5 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. All the sports networks are. MSG was one of the first ones to all Nesson who went away from that. That was the driving factor for the Houston game to be able to be broadcast at that. How the Houston game. So you had what happened for us is HSE began to grow into something. The same people who owned us also got the rights to the Orlando Magic in Florida, became the Sunshine Network. And Prime Sports Network, which became in Denver, which at that point in time had the Nuggets. We, under that banner, added a lot of things to it. Midwest, Upper Midwest, a lot of different areas. Baseball came slower than did the NBA teams, because the NBA teams, the NHL teams wanted to find homes immediately for where they were at. Most of the baseball teams are somewhat happy with what they had, but it was long before they all moved into where we're at now. Right. I'm good. So what we did at Prime Sports at that point in time, combined everything for shoulder programming around the ball games. So we could get 24 hours of programming on there. That meant you were seeing Southwest Conference football, Southwest Conference basketball. You were seeing MSG boxing on Monday nights, and the Felt Forum as well. And we were doing a bunch of things, but all the regional networks put together their local program. And so the rodeo stuff would go national on the cable systems this way, because it gave them filler programming to fill up things. They weren't selling it, at least they were able to get something on there that was unique and maybe not hyper local, but they were trying to find some way to get that accomplished. So they also brought in. There are other groups at this point in time. Brownie knows the story of the KBL quite well, Pittsburgh. The Sports Channel Group is based out of New York, more or less. They also have a network in Florida, they have Ohio. Those all got bought into the Fox Sports family in the late 1990s through Rainbow Broadcasting. Nesson is still a, excuse me, a standalone up in there, and it's from Fenway Sports, and they also are big into NASCAR stuff themselves. But they're a standalone, still in that environment. Pass got morphed into Fox Sports Detroit, which became the first. I don't know the year. I don't remember the year. Fox Sports Detroit signed the rights for the Pistons, the Tigers, and the Red Wings for 10 years, collectively for $1 billion. Wow. You know, but you might find you divide it up amongst all the teams and, you know, how many games and hours of programming you're going to do. This is what it became. So Pass got more than that. Prime Ticket was the Los Angeles version of this. There's 2 stations. There's actually 4 regional sports stations now in Los Angeles. The Prime Ticket band is still there. And then there's HGS in the C area. There are plenty of other ones, but those are the major players in this. And then you had the same point in time in the early 80s, you had the super stations coming up. GM, TBS, and WPIX, which was the predecessor of what is now the Yes Network, the Yankees, which is the mother of all these, is part of the regional sports sale in 2.5 years ago. Yes was valued or sold for right under $5 billion. And that was after the Yankees bought back part of it themselves. So they sold it to Fox. Fox sold it to ESPN. ESPN, and let me get to that. So that's for a second. We had the baseball network. The failed attempt to that very good idea. It's basically what we're doing now. It's 20 years later. We're having the same thing happen to us. But the baseball network was MLB's attempt to kind of bring everything into themselves, so that they would be able to control the pieces of it. Unfortunately, they did not relate into a strike and kill it. So you know, baseball without baseball games isn't very. You know, labor news you can watch the 5 o'clock news and so. That didn't last long, but it was kind of a neat predecessor to this. On Wednesday nights, back in the day, Baseball Network had the exclusive on Wednesday nights. So they did several cable games, and you watched some of those games too, didn't you? I think so. Yeah. So right after the Baseball Network went away, Fox came in and bought up the regional sports networks from Liberty Media. They're nice, and they put them all under the Prime Sports banner. I couldn't find the Prime Sports thing, but I found the Northwest one. But they had, I think at that point in time, 12 teams, I think is what we had in the system, but a pretty good crew of teams throughout. So, but the bulk of all of this goes down to this piece right here. How the networks make money and how much money the teams want to make. In-game commercial content, by and large, a decent chunk of it is owned by the team still. They get their local sponsors into those games. The shoulder programming, I don't know if you remember on Fox Sports 7-8 years ago, we would always immediately go to a newscast show or post-game show right after the game. We ended the game, and you know, they would go, and the final score is 3-2. Now the post-game show starts now, because that kept the ratings up for us to charge more for the post-game show. Because the post-game show goes like this. Every minute that goes on the air, the ratings go down on the post-game show. And that was the best show that the network had as far as being able to get money out of it. So they were trying to find a way to maximize that potential. And this part in the middle, the cable subscriber fees, I don't know where it is now. I had a pretty good idea of this. Back in the late, when the Astros moved from Fox Sports to Comcast, back in 2015, I think that's that right. We were paying, or we were getting paid roughly $5.95 per cable sub for each cable sub. We'll come back to each month. We'll come back to HSE. That was where they made the money. That's where these two pieces right there. The top part, in-game commercial content, not so much. But the teams knew this. And what they really tried to do is, how did we get our hands, we got this. We don't care about that. How do we get some of this? And so what they wanted to do was get their, and it's a good business decision on their part. But what at $5.95, and this is what they started, Comcast came in, and normally the rates increase over time. When initially when the HSC was on the air, they were paying maybe 75 cents a sub. And over the course of 20 or 15 years, they're able to work it up to the rate of $6 a sub. Well, they came in initially with Comcast and said, I got a great idea. You pay $5.95 for it. I can bargain here. It's $8. And for some reason, the cable systems weren't really just happy about that. And so they didn't buy it. And so that's the reason Comcast lasted a year to be able to, before they exited the market. Their programming looked very nice. Their studio was very good. And the local programming was, I think, quite significantly better than some of the stuff we see. So they did all those things, but they couldn't find it because they couldn't get the cable system to pick it up. They couldn't get DirecTV to pick it up because everyone was had to pay that number. And so if they come in at a little bit lower rate and build it up over time, but that wasn't the business model that they were sold when they bought the team. So for good, bad, or indifferent, and please take it. I was on the Fox side of this, not the Comcast side of this, so I probably have some pieces for this is my look at it from where I'm sitting at. But and this is when it all kind of changed. This is 2.0. Anybody know the significance of A-Rod in the cable TV business?
250 million.
Yeah. Interesting part. The week before that, you know what happened? Fox Sports signed a deal with the Texas Rangers, a 10-year deal for $250 million. A-Rod cost them $2 million. Why wouldn't you spend that? So they were trying to maximize their gain, but he actually changed it, and the money went directly. You could see a direct earnings from one point to the average. So, over the course of the next decade or so, Major League Baseball's roughly 20 to 25% of their income reports. So these are guesstimates based on the best things 20% of their income comes off of cookie price. In 2009 or 2010, the Angels signed a deal with ESPN Regional, and they tried to create their own network. They failed to be able to make it work financially, and they bailed on it. Fox picked it up, and then, but in this deal, in the 20-year joint venture deal, the team also got part of the subscriber base. That was the big change that happened from all this. So the team was actually going to get revenue from both sides. That was key for them to be able to do that. So this is fairly recent. This shows you the number of people who have ESPN versus the number of people have Netflix. And what it shows is that there's less people willing to buy sports than there are to stream stuff. And streaming is is the direction it's going into. And that number I think is probably it's probably lower to sell even more. ESPN is paying a ton of money for very good broadcast rights, very good product. But in that same extent, they're the most expensive piece on the cable system. So you're paying, I think, for ESPN by itself, things like almost $10 a sub per month. So, and what's happened is that whole thing has splintered the TV market. This is not 100% current, but it's pretty close to it. You have all these different streaming services that have different pieces of who's got what. And everybody is available some which way or the other, but that's the reason there's not a single one-stop shop to get any particular team or all the teams. If you're on the road and if you're a San Diego fan, you can stream it on the road and you can get it. But what they're concerned about is protecting the in-market games and maximizing the revenue there. So they're looking at how do they accomplish that. So what this means right now for baseball is there's a change. This is 3.0. This is where we're at right now. Excuse me. Sinclair Broadcasting, a company out of Baltimore, bought the from the Fox Regionals were sold to ESPN. Security and Exchange Commission would not allow ESPN to maintain that. They then had to sell it in a reasonable time frame. They valued the regional sports networks from Fox at 20 billion. Does that sound right? It's like 20 to 21 billion. It's over. When they sold them, when they sold the first part of this, they were able to value it roughly at 14 billion. So that they created a whole separate company, Sinclair did, to keep it away from their broadcast station. Sinclair had 160 broadcast stations throughout the country, mostly small markets, nothing, a lot of affiliates of all the channels. They do a lot of cable or of high school stuff and as well for sports, but they have a lot of different product that way. But Sinclair buys it, and then problem happens because Sinclair wanted to get into business so bad. Unfortunately, they didn't necessarily have a very good business plan because they bought it at the height of the market and bought it as the number of eyeballs was going down. So what's going to happen now? We saw a couple of weeks ago, Amazon bought into Sinclair, into Marquee Media, and they're going to do the broadcast rights to this year, the 5 teams that are currently on being streamed as part of the rights with Sinclair: the Royals, the Tigers, the Brewers, the Marlins, and the Braves. So their broadcast will continue to be streamed in market and be able to be gotten through an Amazon thing. And it's only a 1-year deal with Amazon. So if this doesn't work and they can't show it to be worth it, and honestly, when you have teams like, hopefully the Royals are on the right direction. This is not exactly a Goliath group of teams they have. So that may be part of the biggest problem with that. So baseball's going to have to figure out what to do. So what is that? There's another piece from Rob Manfred over here that has going on, and people don't necessarily think about this. They own Major League Baseball, if they were able to create the vehicle for distribution for all the teams, they will also probably be the person used to do it for the NHL and the NBA, which means in a roundabout way, they will have the ability to collect the rights fees to their competitors in the sports world, among college stuff. So the NHL and NBA rights, you only have 80 games in the NHL, you have 80 games in the NBA. You don't have enough product to justify a lot of the big stuff you need. So that's kind of where the future of this may end up being played out. I can see where the government could get involved with this if baseball really pushes it. I think they probably will, to see what goes on with it. So you have the haves and the have-nots. Juan Soto obviously got traded to the Yankees a couple months ago. What people kind of missed in that story is the Yankees also took Trent Grisham, who was down to a 2-year, very bad contract, came off a good year, and hasn't produced anything since. He's a leadoff hitter who's not hitting 200. Doesn't exactly, and can't hit for power. So he's not exactly what they want. So, he helps the Yankees out, but they're also going to have to eat that salary. Or, he's going to be the most expensive AAA player, I would think. Because if they release him, that's fine, he'll give away his contract. If they outright him, he keeps his contract and get paid, whatever it is, $12 or $14 million at AAA. So if he goes to AAA, that's what he's going to make good money next year. So the other place is another place where money is going involved with this. And this is FanDuel. You look at the relative growth of the amount of revenues in just this is like the old data. It's almost doubling every year. And from my perspective, I work through the NFL statistician for Houston. The NFL is exceedingly interested in us getting everything in to maximize the amount of money they can make of the data stream that we're selling to that they're selling to FanDuel to and all the bookings, all the folks around the country. So That's someplace they're looking for about where they're going to make more revenue from. Baseball's trying to figure this out. Baseball's doing exactly the same thing with that the football is doing. Okay, there's a data stream that goes out, and unfortunately, they did something last year that hurt them. I don't think they realized it. So by doing the pitch clock, they cut down the window of the amount of time you can do on individual prop bets. So if you know it's not 15 seconds because it still takes 2 seconds for it to travel from one place to another. So it's not as instantaneous as you think it is. So, all right. So where do I see the future of this going to? Expansion in baseball is probably coming. As a matter of fact, if you look at the way that the new schedule came out last year, you play every team in your league 3 times, or in the other league 3 times, for a total of 48 games there. You play everybody in your league 6 times, and you play everybody in your division, I believe it is 14 times. You come with a wonderful number of 162 games. I wonder how that's going to go so fast. So I think this is all part of that, because they're going to need to find more revenue. Because everyone is stacked with large contracts. You look at what the Padres have, and the Padres have been shoving contracts. The Braves this year have been massively interesting on how they've been trading players and taking on a bad contract here because they have a favorable contract, favorable cable TV deal right now. So they brought in Evan White from the Mariners. And they packaged him on to the White Sox, I believe. But they took on, he had a 5-year contract which he signed before he played the game in the major leagues. Hasn't panned out well, but they're getting rid of that salary and they got off their payroll. So it's a whole bunch of bookkeeping shell games that are going on right now. So I would say that our chances of getting 2 of these teams in this expansion coming in our near future is probably pretty likely. So they get you 32 teams, which gives you 16 teams, and the math works great on the season schedule.
Who are the Diablo affiliated with?
Yeah, it's Mexico City is the is what I brought up. But I don't know. I mean, and it's also we got to figure out how the divisional league works. That's another piece that goes with this too. So yeah, let's see. And anyway, that's the another piece of what this is. The NHL and the NBA were able to increase for their expansion. And they had to do this very similar thing where they taught them a lot of European and people from around the world to come and play for them, which meant that drop off in talent was not significant. What have we seen happen in baseball in the last 5 years? The Asian influence of coming in here, no question, Japan and Korea, and Central America, huge. Those things are getting it's kind of a predecessor to what we're going to see. So that when we do expand, the drop off is not going to be as great as it would be, as you would think it might be. So anyway, questions? Yes, sir.
Close cable fee underwrite free agency.
And it depends on the team. In large part, yeah, they have.
So they go away in free agency for.
Right now, that's the reason you see, I think, Blake Snell's still out there and Bellinger out there, because there's so few teams that can spend crazy money. And so, even George Steinbrenner only occasionally spent against themselves. So most of them now, there has to be actually somebody legitimately bidding against you for them to do that. Yes, sir.
I've read that the Rangers are a little strapped as far as adding any free agents because of their television deal. What is their television?
They've taken a 20% decrease, as have Rangers and one other team.
Twins?
No, Twins are a new deal. Twins are a 1-year deal. So the Rangers have a lot of veteran contracts, and the Rangers, believe it or not, last year the Astros had 11 games started by pitchers 30-year-olds and older. Okay, that was all by Justin Verlander. The Texas Rangers had 120 some odd games started by pitchers 30-year-olds and older.
Wow.
The Rangers are in a much more condensed window to win now. So what baseball's offering, like right now, as of today, Padres and the Diamondbacks do not have local TV deals. And it says on the website, come back soon, we'll have details for you. They very well, they're going to have 6 deal. But the fact that we're pitchers and catchers have already reported, and you used to do programming from San Diego, Peoria and air that in order to get them interest to build up to the season. They ain't doing that this year. So, because it's a cost without a revenue. Yes, sir.
Do the clubs get a take of the gambling going on with FanDuel and all that?
I think it goes to Major League Baseball, and I think Major League Baseball splits that up. I don't know the answer to that.
You know, so the actual cut.
Do not know. Yes, sir.
Subscribe to MLB TV. How does the 5 teams that Prime, Amazon Prime, I guess, affecting the.
I think they're going to play it on Amazon Prime is where they're going to be able to get it, but I think you have to be authenticated in that market. Otherwise, the outer market stuff still goes to MLB TV, I believe is how it's going. But there are so few details and all this stuff right now. I checked today before I came to make sure I kind of have the latest information for you. It's good.
So I don't know about Chester, they say.
Will there ever be a situation where you could be anywhere in the country and watch any game you want?
Yeah, probably.
I could be in St. Louis and pick the Astros game without just click through on some stream, I guess.
I think you'll be able to do that at some point in time in the not too distant future. But the problem is that they're so concerned about inner market and outer market rights. That's their mindset. And because they want to make sure they're maximizing the revenue. If you're an Astros fan, the people in Houston, they want to get everything they can get out of here, which makes sense. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. But they don't have a good business model for
How's
this.
the NFL do there? Aren't they all sharing the same TV
Yes.
spot?
Yeah, they are. They share this. There's no regional TV on.
Right.
Yeah. So, but all the commercials are sold across the board by the 2 or 3 networks.
So baseball would never, I guess, the Yankees and the Royals would never agree to do that because it would cost the Yankees too much money.
Well, what I think you're going to see happen is the Major League Baseball will probably at some point in time, like the baseball network, all the baseball rights, have a channel which you can get it on and authenticate it to your region, and you'd be able to pay for it that way. I think that's where it's going to get to, but that could be next year. A lot of people who used to work with me at Fox went to work for Sinclair, and now we're at MLB. So MLB is trying to get their hands around this because MLB sees the revenue potential on the NBA and NHL side as well. And they can get their hand in that, which everybody's looking for new revenue. Wherever they can find a new revenue from and how they find it, that's really what they're at. Yes, sir.
In addition to baseball, you're talking about some hockey and some basketball and so forth.
Yes, sir.
But how about the NFL? I mean, are they that head and shoulders above the rest
Yes.
when it comes to the crowd?
Well, the reason being in the NFL is because the NFL has only a national product. They have no local product. So what happens is if the Texans are playing here in Houston on one of the like a Prime Video or something like that, they will sell it to a local affiliate to air it. They make sure it gets on free TV inside the marketplace if the game is.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL had some issues. Well,
Yeah.
public had an issue like when they put a playoff game on Peacock only,
Yes.
and the public couldn't see it without paying for it.
Right.
And the NFL, so they give them the old so what? We don't care what the public thinks. This is going to be, how we. And they're arrogant, but they're afford to be because. They have a power.
Well, in 1976 or 77, the NFL did a no announcer day with the Miami and the Jets, I believe is who it was. And it's an experiment. They tried it, the experiment failed, and they moved on. So the NFL will everybody's gonna figure out a way to make more money here. The question is how much of the pie are you willing to give away to get your piece of pie?
One of the things about recently the NFL did, which intrigues me, the NFL announced the Eagles are playing their opening game in Rio in Brazil.
Mhm.
And they're still yet to mention who the opponent is. Yeah. They've only named one team. Haven't mentioned the other team.
Well, here's the deal. The NFL started moved the 17-game schedule 2 years ago, right? The reason they moved that is so everybody will get a neutral site game and not lose a home date. That's the reason they did that. Now that's their long-term plan. So we play dominoes or we play checkers, they play chess. Okay, that's what's happening, and they got much bigger pieces than we. So Yes, sir.
How much of the difference with the NFL is because they have the 1 game week, or teams have the 1 game week versus the 6 nights, 7 nights a week? Okay.
Huge, because whether we like it or not, and I'm an NFL fan, okay, and that the NFL is an event, whereas the baseball is a marathon and has a different cadence to it. And so to see no single event could, once a week, they have a whole media package stuff. When I worked for the radio station, on Sunday you played the game, on Monday the coaches talk. On Tuesday, you had, you get the visiting team person on the line. On Wednesday, you get the visiting coach on the line. On Thursday, you could get your, they had it scheduled out. So they inched out the media to you just enough. So you were on the track every day and you had to come to them every time to do it.
Well, I believe what the Texans now, and so it's not even, they're not producing it.
Some of it is and some of it.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, they can't afford not to be a partner with their team, because if they lose the contract with the team, they're just another, I mean, much the way KBW is with the Astros. You have product and this is what you want to do with it. So, yes, sir.
What, I guess, subscriptions could you use to watch the Astros this coming season? I think there was a change, was there not?
I have cable, so I can't answer that question. I haven't had the right there.
But I can tell you.
Good.
Well, you can watch it on DirecTV.
Okay.
And you watch it on Fubo.
Okay.
Okay, so that was my question to you. How can Fubo get away with charging people $14 for a regional sports fee? I mean, isn't that just heads over everybody else, or is that the going right now? $14 a month.
It is what the competitors are roughly doing. Okay.
About 14 a month now?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think they're paying $8, something like that a month to them, and so the rest of it's their good.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fubo is streaming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, you can get Astro, right? What's that?
That's how you pay for all that, might as well pay for cable.
It's still cheaper, trust me, it's still cheaper.
So, do the teams realize how much they're losing the other fans?
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to hit to them, cord cutting people, have a piece that's available to them. My son's 31 years old, okay? He doesn't have a cable package. Right. He gets it on his knee. He's got a little stick on his TV. Right. He watches what he wants to get online. And that's what they want to do. That's what they're used to doing. But the one thing about sports is a combined effort to watch together. And so there's you have to do it at a certain point in time. Other stuff, it goes away. So, if you want, like, let's, NCIS song. Okay, you can record that if you want to, or you can go see it someplace else. And, I'm cheap, so I have cable. I'll record it on there and watch it the next day. I can do that. So, but things that are live, and that's the reason, live commercials. If you watch a game, you have to watch the commercials. If you watch it live, and that's what the subscribers know. That's the reason the cost of the advertisers is there. That's the reason the business is still skewed that direction. So. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I event on network television, first light for 19, that were NFL games.
Yeah.
It's been an enormous change with you in here.
Absolutely, there. Well, there's no more math. There's no more. I think NBC used to have the comedy Thursday night. You would watch things, and they used to have things like that. Right now, it's like on some network shows or some of the networks, you have the same franchises are on 2 and 3 nights a week. Different varieties of the same thing. And don't get me wrong, they're still making money on it, but they're making money off of us. They ain't making money off our kids. And so they're trying to be in a place where they can make money off our kids. So, yes, sir. You have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the Astro. There's a network.
Yes.
You might really see that this year on the network.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Space City, yes.
Yeah, but yeah. I'm nervous.
No, they won't be, because yes, sir.
Oh, speaking of Space City, now the new network, is the local, when it moved to AT&T, they kind of had a less of a local model as far as the supporting programming. Is that gonna change any, is there gonna?
I doubt it. They don't confirm with me, honestly. I'm a freelancer who goes and works the games. But as far as I can tell, honestly, there's very little money to be made on anything other than the ball game. That's the reason that you and Aaron Astros game, and there's immediately following that, there's overnight, and there's the following morning, and the countdown version, and there's 5 times before the next Astros game comes on. So it's the same product. They pay for it once, they're using it 5 times. There is, and their Astros on deck, or their all access show is the other peripheral piece of that. So there's nothing on the air there that's not Astros driven or Rockets driven at that point in time. But what it's like on the NBA, at least the rules used to be, you own the rights to the image of the NBA games until 7 p.m. the following day or 6 p.m. the following day. We don't have to pay for it yet. But if it aired it 2 days later, we did have to pay for it. So you have to be careful about the rights fees with all that. So
What would be the differences in the Astros package financially last year to this year, do you think?
there's a huge difference in that the Astros right now are writing checks, which up until now, the Astros have been able to be in a fire. And most of the teams are exactly the same thing. It's that, oh, we want you to air our show and our games, and we're going to give you commercials. You're going to air for us, and you're going to air for me, and then you need to write me a check, a large check, but now it's going to be like, well, I got to go sell this now, and I got to pay now the people who do this too, and I got to pay for the production truck, and I got to pay for the travel to go do this, and these people eat when they're on the road. You know what we're going to do? We're going to keep them home and do that. It's nickels and dimes, but when you're used to getting paid well for it, I don't think you'll see. I think that will be a lot more people like us will see it, but it won't impact what you're seeing. Anybody else?
Thanks a lot, Phil. I'm curious where the future of Astros broadcasts are going to be. The direct-to-consumer model. I'm really kind of curious about that. I know teams like the Cubs have already started, so I'm waiting for them to announce that if it does come about. It's direct-to-consumer. But anyway, next presentation, our chapter secretary, Gloria, has been waiting for months to give this presentation over a nice little baseball book. For those of you who have girls in the house, right? Or us guys can read it too. You know, right?
I gave it to my great grandson for Christmas.
Okay, Gloria, go ahead.
Okay. A little background. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of the International Women's Baseball Center based in Peoria, Illinois, which is where the all-girls, the League of Our Own people began. It was Peoria, right? And now they've got a center and they have book clubs every other month, I think. So a few months back, well, I guess it was before Christmas, and this was the book that they talked about, and it's 3 Strikes Summer. And so I got on the Zoom meeting and we talked about the book. A little background. I grew up in the 50s. I played baseball with all the kids on my block and the next block, mostly boys, some girls. But I was so mad because I couldn't play Little League Baseball. My brother played, but I was better than him. So I grew up being really mad about Little League. Now, when I go see my great grandsons play, there's girls on the team. And I'm like, oh, I was born too soon. But anyway, I like this book because the main character is named Gloria, and that's my name. The author is Skylar Shrimp, SCHREMPP. I went to school with Ann Shrimp, elementary, high school, and college. And I actually asked the author if she knew this Ann Shrimp from the city, and she said she didn't. I have no idea if shrimp is a common name. Anyway, this book, well, got my report on my phone here. It says on the back of the book it's for 8 to 12-year-olds. I would think it would, depending on what somebody's reading ability or interest in baseball, are interested in gutsy girls, this could be for second, third grade up to high school. I read it in a day and I loved it. Gloria, it starts out with Gloria's family in the panhandle of Oklahoma in the 1930s. And as the book begins, the man from the bank is out front. Well, the family has packed everything they own into the truck, and they're having to leave Oklahoma because the crops weren't growing, the wind blew all the good soil away, and I don't know. So as her dad is talking to the banker out front and signing the papers to give away their house, Gloria is angry because number one, her dad's being polite to this guy that's taking their house. And number two, what is my phone holding? And number two, the man from the bank has this big shiny car. So what she does, she goes down to the creek behind their house, finds the biggest rock she can find, and she plays baseball. And as it explains, she can throw a rock and hit a bird flying by the house. She's angry because the boys in this little town where she lived wouldn't let her be on the team. But she practices, she's a pitcher, and she's really darn good. So she picks up this stone, and as her dad is shaking hands with the banker, she throws that stone and it goes right through the windshield of the banker's car. And the banker said, "You didn't tell me you had a boy here." He said, "No, I just got girls." "Well, your son just busted my window. Get out of here. Go on, just get. You're out of this house." And it was funny because her father knew that she had done it because he'd seen her practice her pitching. Anyway, they wind up traveling across the country and they wind up in California at a peach orchard. And there's 3 rules at the orchard. No stealing products, in other words, don't take any peaches, no drunkenness or gambling, and absolutely no organizing. Well, Gloria didn't understand what that was about. She said, "I'm not going to organize peaches." But there's a secret all-boys baseball team that, you know, and the kids had to work with their parents. I mean, this is the 30s in California. You know, when I was reading this, I was thinking of the grapes of wrath and how horrible things were back then. But the sons of the peach pickers had formed a baseball team. And the next orchard over was an apricot orchard, and they had a baseball team. And they would have to dig under the fences to meet and play ball. So Gloria tries to try out for the baseball team, and they tell her, "We don't want any skirts. Skirts don't play baseball." Well, turns out eventually they have to let her play because she's better than their pitcher. But I'll just read what it says on the back. It says, "Gloria has never been the type to wait around for permission. If the boys want to let her play, she'll find a way to make them. If the people around her are keeping secrets, well, she'll have a few of her own. And if the boss men, the peach orchard, say she can't organize peaches, then by golly, she'll organize a whole ball game." And what she does is organize the game between the peach pickers and the apricot pickers. And it turns out that they did let her pitch because she was better than their pitcher. They're winning the game by 1 run. It's the last inning, and there's 2 outs. She's pitching, but it's their best batter that came to bat, and all of a sudden he hits the ball. She jumps up and tries to catch it, but it was so hard that she fell down. And she finally stood up dazed and everybody's looking at her. Turns out she caught the ball. So she won the game. But the story is interesting because it talks about union organizing and I've been retired since '08, but the last couple of years I worked for the teachers union organizing. So union organizing interested me too. Anyway, this is just a story about this little girl with a lot of guts and a kid that wouldn't take no for an answer. So I really liked her. Now my great grandson didn't want to read it because it's about a girl, but he has finally gotten into it. So I recommend this if you have any kids that like to read fiction and so on. And another interesting book, and Joe, I guess it was around Thanksgiving, you said something about Happy Turkey Day, and then you mentioned Turkey Sterns.
Right.
The next book club that we did after this was a book on Turkey Sterns written by his granddaughter. So that was a really good book too. But anyway, that's it. That's fine for questions.
All right. Time for the fun, Fred. Last but not least, Fred has a trivia contest for everybody. And there's a gift for the winner tonight.
Oh.
There's a gift for the winner tonight. Fred, you take it. Obviously. No. All of you can work in teams or you can do this individually. It's up to y'all. So Chris is gonna read the questions for those of you online. And I can go ahead and read it. Oh, there's 2 pages.
I printed them front and back.
Front and back.
Don't worry about the steak.
Okay.
Now I could have done just a plain old, everybody goes in, and who knows what stats stuff everybody did and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to change it up a little. Mike McCroskey was so scared, he didn't show up. Notice that, right?
Now, is this a PhD level or master's level?
This quiz will have some that are elementary level, some that are high school, some that are college, and some of them you're gonna have to stretch farther than you've ever stretched in your life. I will be honest with you. I could not answer every single point on this legitimately myself. And the main one is the last question. Okay?
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
All right.
So some of them are gonna be nothing too good. This is all nicknames.
Nickname.
Nicknames.
All right.
Do you want to let everybody see what they can answer first, or do we want to
Well, let's just give them a couple of minutes
Yeah.
and
peruse?
if you want to read through them first, so
We got a couple people online doing this too, so they just.
Oh, okay. I didn't see her.
you got what, 3 people online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to read them or you want me to read them?
I'll read them out here.
Okay.
The first question, which is a no-brainer, who was known as the Commerce Comet?
Okay.
Number 2, who was known as Joey Bats?
Okay.
Are these baseball players or gangsters?
These are all baseball players. These are all legitimate too. Who was known as No Neck? And Mike McCroskey is not the correct answer. I will tell you that right now. Easy one. Who was known as Oil Can? Who was known as Sorilla? I love this.
Who was known as Big Donk? Greg, you better get that. Who was known as Kronk? There's one for Bob. Who was known as the Secretary of Defense? If you miss this question, you'll be asked to lead us. Who was known as the toy cannon? Who was known as the Flying Hawaiian? Who was known as King Felix? Who was the Penguin? Who was the Millville Meteor? I love this. Who is known as Scrabble? Who is known as the human rain delay? Again, not Mike McCroskey. He is not the answer to that question either. Who is known as the Kung Fu Panda? Easy, right, Bob? This one is real tough. We'll see what you're made of. Who was known as Tony Plush? If you know it, that's great. Who was known as Thor? This player had two nicknames, the Machine and Sir Albert. There were two players that had the same nickname, Eye Chart. Who were they? Heard me mention both of them in here at one time or another, by the way. Again, this one, if you don't get at least one of the two, ouch. Who was known as the Red Rooster? All right. This is spun off of from Joe Thompson deal. There are several players whose nickname ended in Rod.
Okay, little Elvis.
So there was A-Rod, E-Rod, I-Rod, J-Rod, and K-Rod. And the super bonus question, which no one get completely. George Herman Ruth had more nicknames than any player in history. There are 19 documented different nicknames. 19 of them. I had heard of about slightly under a half. So, but it's documented. That's a point apiece, though, for all of you to get them.
I don't mind even to go back to the page, let me know.
Yeah.
Sorry, got them all in.
Yeah.
So
Between 4 and 3. This is recycling. So that's investigation. So. See.
Right, it's pretty of it.
But everything that works pretty good. Let's leave this other life. Section process.
Thank you.
It's an interesting. Yes. I started getting into it. I said, I had to put through it there. I did. Oh. Time when you get started. But, was it suitable?
Huh?
Was it suitable?
It ain't the 80s, I'm out.
It challenged?
Challenge, yeah, for me. I'll wait another couple of years before I win one.
What do you think the winning score will be?
What do you guys, 47? This group, 25.
25?
John got probably 35.
I'm kind of losing.
Just low score wins like golf or something.
I don't know. Marcia's done already, right? So she got 40, she got 47.
She took my answer. Okay, it's not late. Are you good? How many you get on?
47. Man. I don't know if Vince can hear me. You got 47?
No, definitely don't. No, I'm struggling to think of some Babe Ruth nicknames. I just was going through the Sandlot lines over and over.
Yeah. How about you, Sam?
Was each name 1 point?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I have 23 total points.
See, there we go.
Got some players.
I did get T plush though.
Yeah, that's a stud. Yeah.
I'm telling him Crosby was scared. That's why he didn't show us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, at the next meeting that shows up, Ash, I'll say, man, everybody got about 44, 45 right. Let's see how you do.
I was cheering. He persisted with Al Smith.
That's the players you never have.
That's the. Oh, you know what? It must be shut up. It's for. Yeah, that's right. That's your time.
What do you guys think?
Everybody throwing up their hands, or they still?
They kind of. Yes, they use the Virginia.
Well, we can work as team.
Anyone still working? Or are we ready to rock?
We ready to roll? I think we're ready to rock and roll.
All right, here we go. And so for the first question, who was the Commerce comic?
Mickey Man here.
That's correct. Who was Joey Bats?
Jose Bautista.
Correct. Who was known as No Neck? That's correct.
Who's that?
No Neck Williams. Who was known as Oil Can? That's right. Who was known as Zorilla?
Alzarilla.
Ben Zobrist is correct. Somebody better get this right. Who was known as Big Donkey? Adam Dunn. That's correct. Who was
Milo used to call.
Huh?
Milo used to call.
Yeah. Who was known as Prom? That's correct.
Who?
Travis Hafner. Very good. Bob, who was the Secretary of Defense?
Cause it's man.
Who was the secretary? No.
Actually,
Nope.
Gary
Close, but no.
Gary Maddox.
Gary Maddox. Gary Maddox, Philadelphia. Here's the one that costs you your membership if you blow it. The toy cannon.
Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve. Turn your.
Who is known as the Flying Hawaiian? Very good, very good. And the easy one, who was King Felix? Correct. Another easy one, who was the Penguin? Correct. And who was the Millville Meteor? Mike Trout. Yes, sir. Now we're gonna separate the girls from the boys. Who was known as Scrabble? No, actually, no.
Really?
No. Mark Ripchinsky.
What's first letters?
R
I spell that
R C E P C Z Y N S K I.
Have to be number two.
That'll be in another question. I'll tell you that. Who is known as the human rain delay? Correct. Mike Hargrove. Was the bat. Who was known as the Kung Fu Panda?
Pablo Snowball.
Correct. Here's another college level question. We've been told he's got it. Who was known as Tony Plush? Who?
Nigel Morgan.
Correct. Nigel Morgan. Yep.
Let's be a Brewer.
He was Brewers playoff hero.
Easy one. Who was Thor? Correct. Can you spell that? Oh,
Yes.
all right. Another grammar school. Who was known as the Machine and as Sir Albert? Correct. Who were the two players who carried the nicknames Eye Chart?
Doug Goosh. Ryan Jordan.
Doug Goosh is one correct answer.
Craig Smallstone.
No.
Ryan Jordan.
Mark Rezolanic. Mark
Bill Grabarkowitz.
Bill.
Bill Grabarkowitz
So
from the 70s with the
Yeah.
Dodgers. Doug Goosh and I played Little League ball together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I said, you look at his name, you think it's Goodsey.
Yeah.
You know, so. All right, here's another one. Half of you cost your membership. Who were the two players known as Red Rooster? That's one. Who was the other?
Rusty
Richie.
Staub had that nickname in Houston before Doug did, but Rusty didn't like it, so they took it away and they gave it to Doug. So
That's the young guy.
See, that's
That's the
great.
young guy right there. You tell him, Samuel.
It's Tom White's reincarnated.
And California. Rick Burleson. Rick Burleson. All right, now we're on to the Rods. Who was A-Rod? Who was E-Rod? Correct. Who was I-Rod? Who was J-Rod? Correct. Who was K-Rod? You figure, how the hell did he get K, right? He was a pitcher, strikeouts. All right, the super duper bonus question. This was fun. So George Herman Ruth had several nicknames. Name one. Correct.
Bambino.
Correct. Correct.
Bambino.
The big fella.
Yes.
Big fella.
Yeah.
What?
Bronx Bomber. The kid.
Bronx Bomber, yes.
King of Crush or King of Crash.
Correct. King of Crash, that's correct.
Is it Bambino or Great Bambino?
Well, Great Bambino, but a lot of them call it Bambino or Great Bambino. I'll give you credit for either one.
What about Bambi?
Actually, you're close. Big Bam.
Big Bam.
Big Bam is one of his big names. Anybody else got any others? Some of these I had never heard, but they're documented, so.
Yeah.
Did anyone say King of Swing? That was one of them. The Titan of Terror. Jidge. Jidge. That was a play on George. Herman the Great. This one I did hear. Modern Beowulf. The Wazir of Wham.
Yeah.
The Maharaja of Mash. The Raja of Rap. Blunderbuss. That was a big gun. The Wally of Wallop. The Wizard of Whack. The Prince of Pounders. And the Behemoth of Bust. All 19. And if you Google, they'll bring them up to 19. Yeah. So, how many of you had 45 or more correct? Besides Chris.
I have no idea how many I had. Zero.
All right, so what? All right, how many had 10? All right, 15. 20. How many we got? Any of you guys got over 20 in there? Sam, you had 23, right?
No, I didn't get that many right. Some of them
Okay.
were wrong.
Vance?
I had 20 total.
20 total. How many did you have, Phil? 22? I think we have a winner.
Congratulations, Phil. You get to
Next time, yeah.
Bryce next time. You also get a copy of Carly's Wright Robinson's The Right Side of History. All right, she talked about it last month. All right, everyone. I'm taking 1 month off. And Bob is running the meeting next month. I'll be here, but considering my travel, Bob's running it. We'll have a great presentation. We're working on a surprise, so do not miss it. And I'm not talking about Phil's trivia contest. Hey, what what's that? What happened to West? Still around. Huh? Friday. I can't hear you. Everybody have a great month. Talk to you later. I can't hear you. What? Next meeting is March 18th.